All right, welcome back to Speak for Yourself, the most fearless show in sports. Whitlock and Wiley. Sean Merriman is back. Let's move to the NFL. Sponsored by the Spark Card, Capital One. It's been another eventful week for the Pittsburgh Steelers. First, Ben Roethlisberger apologized for publicly criticizing Antonio Brown last season. Then Brown shot back, calling Big Ben two-faced on Twitter. Well, now Ben is continuing to take the high road, addressing how he's handled the offseason criticism of his leadership.
I'd be lying if we didn't say that it doesn't bother us at times. You know, so much. It does start to hurt. It affects your family. When it affects your family, then it can definitely affect you. You're talking leadership and you're talking relationships. This sport, relationships change on a yearly basis because guys are here and gone. And so you have to do your best to try and realize what it takes for each guy to develop the best relationship you can. And when it comes to leadership and things like that, we didn't make the playoffs last year. We didn't win our division. So I lacked in leadership because that's my job as the leader of this team, is to get us to the playoffs.
Guys, I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball.
All right.
Do we think Ben is being sincere here? But also, do we think he's learned something from last season and will be a better leader moving forward?
Yes to both questions. I think he's sincere because you got to look at what he's doing right now. Either this is new messaging to some people out there, or this is a return to his messaging of before when his leadership wasn't in question. Either way shows you that he has learned from last year and Antonio Brown. I sided with Antonio Brown in that feud because this is the Roethlisberger that Antonio Brown knew for many years, and then something changed. Now, you opened my eyes to what did change, and it's kind of a Tiger Woods parallel of sort, but I knew Ben Roethlisberger before he even got to the pros. So Ben was cool with everybody. Ben could roll with everyone. And that cost him a couple incidents off the field, obviously, everyone knows, and he got a little reckless. So Ben shuts it down, gets married, right? Slows the roll. And what happens in those moments? Tiger Woods showed us. You overcorrect. What happens? I can't hang with MJ. Can't hang with Barkley. What happens to him? All of a sudden, I got to be this other type of guy and leader. And you get tight and close to the vest. And then Antonio and them other cats that had status and equity were like, what was this new dude? Now that Antonio's gone, for whatever reasons, Ben is back to being himself because he's realized, I could calibrate being the married, cool, calm, collected dude and also being one of the fellas and a leader of this team.
I believe he was being sincere. I just believe it's too late. I think that he should have done it some time ago and understood how much power and influence he had over everybody else. Because if he said what he said right now, 2 years ago,
say it,
Antonio Brown would still be there. Le'Veon Bell will still be there, and that team will still be together. But it's too late for him to come out and say that now. It's never too late to apologize and to grow up and do things different. But now you dismantled a great team. Guys are gone different places, and you had the power and influence to change everything. And all you had to do was say, you know what? I have to get better as a leader. It's my fault, and it's on me. Through all the reports that I've seen over the last year or so when Antonio Brown was talking about, I've never seen Ben apologize, never seen Ben say anything other than try to get himself out of the limelight and put it on Antonio Brown, put it on Le'Veon Bell, had the offensive lineman going at Le'Veon Bell and different guys. You could have squashed all of that. If you went to the offensive lineman and said, guys, we have to stop this, they would have stopped. That team would have still been there. So it's great he apologized. I understand he's grown up and doing things different, but it's still too late.
Never too late to do the right thing. Point two, sometimes less is more. Sometimes the number one thing stopping you from growing up might be it might have been Antonio Brown. Again, when you have the best receiving core, maybe the most talented, gifted receiver, you don't focus on all the little things because you can be a little bit sloppy and still be effective. Now that things have been taken away from Ben, he has no choice but to go this other route. I think it puts Mike Tomlin in a better position to have a strong relationship with Big Ben. And so I think Ben is being sincere. I think Ben, again, and Marcel, as you know better than me and Sean, you've been married. There's a process.
No.
There's a process. There's a process.
No.
There's a process.
Big
to
time.
getting your wife and all that in order.
Yes.
Because again, now, and I don't mean that, just getting comfortable in the relationship where now he can reconnect with his teammates and his wife is good.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of
balancing act.
There's a lot of people that had to be okay with him reestablishing himself as a more hands-on leader and one of the guys. And the timing's right. And I think the Steelers are going to find out less is more this year.
Yeah, it's interesting. One, about that dynamic of being married. I mean, Ben used to be out there, and now he's married, and then the people who knew you from out there don't necessarily let go as easy as you desire. So there's always that tug of war, and sometimes you overcorrect, like I said before. But I like your point. Is it too late? It seems that way in terms of construction of the great talents that they lost. But think about who's on this roster now. A lot of young talent, like Antonio Brown even said, they trying to get paid. They listening to Ben Roethlisberger. Or guys who've already been paid, or they're new to the team, so they're going to respect and defer to Ben Roethlisberger. It's actually perfectly constructed for him to go out there with this message now.
Yeah, I just think that he had more power than he knew, and he waited too long. If this would have happened 2 years ago, he could have wrecked it. To your point of him being married, settled down, and life changed, he's still an older guy. He's still been around long enough. He's not trying to figure it out anymore. I just think that he took the easy way out. And by getting himself out of the limelight and let Antonio Brown and these guys continue to dig a big hole for themselves. When you easily could have called them, you're Ben Roethlisberger. You could show up at these guys' houses and say, you're going to talk to me. We're going to sit down. And they would have listened. If he would have came out and said, hey, I was just being immature. I need to be a better leader. That whole thing would have been squashed.
I gotta push back.
Because Antonio Brown, you already know they're immature.
Here's the thing. When your maturity is through the normal, natural evolution, what you're saying is correct. That process is smooth. When it's abrupt, when Tiger Woods, abrupt, Ben Roethlisberger, abrupt, things change, everything, your world flips upside down, and you make changes like that, it takes time for things to crystallize, and I think that's where Ben Roethlisberger is now.
All right, before we go, I'd like to say a word or two about the most improbable and entertaining playoff season we've ever seen. And it's happening in the National Hockey League. You still have time to catch a piece of it as the St. Louis Blues and the Boston Bruins clash in the Stanley Cup Final starting Monday night. Let me get you up to speed. The two #1 seeds, Calgary and Tampa Bay, both lost in the first round. Seriously. After winning a record 62 games in the regular season and drawing comparisons to some of Wayne Gretzky's all-time great Edmonton teams, the Tampa Bay Lightning exited the postseason in just 4 games, swept by the Columbus Blue Jackets. That's the equivalent of the 73-win Golden State Warriors getting swept in the first round of the 2016 NBA playoffs. Crazy, isn't it? But it's Tampa's collapse. That's even more crazy. That's the story. There's a story even more crazy than that. The St. Louis Blues, in the first week of January, the Blues were in last place across the NHL. They were widely seen as the softest team in the NHL. The entire roster was on the trading block. Management turned the team over to interim coach Craig Berube, best known as a goon for the Philadelphia Flyers. No one knows if Berube can coach, but he can certainly motivate. Last night, the Blues beat San Jose 5-1 to qualify for the Stanley Cup Final for the first time in 49 years. For the first time since the organization ran off coach Scotty Bowman in a power struggle. Bowman is the GOAT of GOATs when it comes to coaching. His resume is better than Bill Belichick's and Phil Jackson's. In the late 1960s, as a first-time head coach, he led the expansion St. Louis Blues to 3 straight Stanley Cup Finals. When executives within the Blues organization started micromanaging Bowman, he bolted to the Montreal Canadiens and won 5 Stanley Cups in the 1970s. He coached the Pittsburgh Penguins to the title in 1992. He later won 3 more with the Detroit Red Wings. For the past 49 years, the Blues have suffered the curse of the Bowman Beano. They unearthed the greatest coach in history and ran him off with front office dysfunction. And now they're on the brink of going from worst to first. You really only see these stories in movies about baseball. This is Major League or the Bad News Bears on ice. It's the magic of sports. This is why you never quit. Yesterday, I ripped Magic Johnson for quitting as president of the Los Angeles Lakers. I shared a personal story for my career as a journalist to make my point. Well, here's another one. At age 22, I chose to not play my 5th year of football at Ball State. I quit. We won the Mid-American Conference Championship that year. I've regretted that decision for 30 years. That's why I hate quitting and love the story of the 2019 St. Louis Blues. More Speak for Yourself after the